and maybe Kate, you can share the slides. We'll put them on the CoFSA website so you can go back to them, you can share them. I think we all need to do some advocacy on this topic and make this a real issue that gets more attention and funding. So Jess and Dan, over to you.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. And Kate, wow, that's impressive. Beautiful project. And yes, ours is a younger initiative, but I really hope that we get to the place where you're at in terms of the scope of what you've developed. It's hugely impressive. So thank you for sharing that. I have some slides as well that I'd like to share. So I'll just switch on screen share and then I'll take it away. So I hope you can see that all right. Great. So thank you very much, Charlotte, Noemi, and the rest of the team for welcoming us into this presentation and for shining a little spotlight on Karma Pharma here in the UK. And there are 3 of us today to share the story of the project. I'll speak a little bit to set the scene, and then I'll hand over to Dan and then to Joe, who will share a bit more on the deeper learnings of the project that are just emerging. So Karma Pharma is an initiative that's funded by the A-Team Foundation here in the UK, and it's hosted by Alef Trust. I'm one of the directors of the organization. Alef Trust is a non-profit working globally in education, in health, and in community development. And Karma Pharma is specifically a UK-based project addressing food systems transformation from the inside out by supporting the well-being of farmers and food producers. So I'll take you into the background of the project a little bit. First, I'll say a little bit about Alef Trust, then I'll give you a little bit of insight for how it's going, and then Dan will carry on that story, and Joe. So this idea of addressing food systems transformation from the inside out is really at the heart of Alef Trust's mission. We work at the intersection of inner development and outer transformation. We believe that shifts in human consciousness are key to planetary flourishing. So Alef Trust is informed by what I might describe as a unitive worldview, and that's echoed across the wisdom traditions. The idea is really, in a way, simple, that we are nature, that we are one with the world, and that we're really called now to act from this deeper place of awareness or deeper place of consciousness. And to help people experience this deeper level of interconnectedness, or sometimes it's been described as interbeing, we aim to cultivate conditions that can help experience this. So we see ourselves in a way as gardeners of consciousness, stewarding ecosystems where transformation can be lived and explored through education, through application, and through research. So what that looks like in practice is that we run higher education programs, we run open learning programs for continued learning throughout life. We also run communities of practice, supporting projects around the world. We seed projects, we incubate them, we accompany them through mentoring and research, and then we engage in storytelling really to shine a light on this work, to make it more visible. And throughout, we aim to integrate study with practical innovation so that this is really lived and it's integrated into what people are doing wherever they are. So in recent years, a partnership with Earthbound has come to the fore. This is Dan and Johanna McTiernan's organization, Earthbound, working in food and farming and coaching and integrating land connection and all the threads that are dancing here into a tapestry, if you will. I myself have a background in the arts and in mental health, as well as in spirituality and psychology. And so together we want to explore how farming and food production can be revitalized right now, revitalized when we engage with land, with animals, with plants in ways that really deepen our connection and our reverence for life. And this is something that we all once had, perhaps, and then it got lost in some parts of the world. So there's something of a call to remember our deeper connection with nature. So we launched Karma Farmer in February this year. It's a young project. It's an 18-month pilot with a mixed methods design. And our guiding question overall is, how can well-being practices enhance this connection to self, to others, and to the land, helping us transform our relationships and our working practices? And Dan will say a bit more about the content we offer in a moment. But really, in a nutshell, we are exploring how meditative and embodiment practices can help us deepen our sense of self, feeling ourselves as part of nature, and then to see what ripple effects does that have. So phase 1 has just been completed. It involved a 10-week online course with 89 participants, many of whom were actually women and under 50, which is unusual for UK farming, where men over 55 dominate. So it was kind of heartening to see the women and the younger generations engage. But of course, we also want to reach the broader farming group, as it were. So there is a little bit of outreach work for us still to be done there. We've completed phase 1 and we've now moved into phase 2, and that involves a 7-month cooperative inquiry. It's a form of collaborative action research, which includes 18 people, so a much smaller group, including the researchers, and we're exploring together how these embodiment and meditative practices can be integrated and sustained in daily life, as out on the farms, out on the field. So I'm going to move the slide forward here. I'm going to jump into the results of the first phase, and I'm going to let Dan tell us more about the content in a moment. But yes, in a few words, the outcomes of phase 1 really demonstrated improvements already within a fairly short space of time. We're talking within 10 weeks and even less in part. Improvements in well-being, embodiment, and presence. You can see that we used a number of tools to measure well-being, embodiment, and presence. You have them on screen here. The Warwick and Edinburgh Mental Wellbeing Scale, a multidimensional assessment of interoceptive awareness, which is really all about embodiment and sensing our bodies really from the inside out, really feeling deeply, and then also extending that feeling towards the land. Can we actually feel our connection to the land, to nature? And then also sensing into human and nature connection more broadly. And the improvements showed, but the demonstrated were significant across all measures, but particularly embodiment showed the strongest gains. And the highest scores were among participants between 30 and 50. And most of the participants also came from England. And I said earlier on already, we really want to broaden our reach. And we also found that these results were already achieved within 6 weeks of joining the course. So it wasn't even that people needed to take the full 10 weeks, but that by the halfway point, by 5-6 weeks, people were beginning to experience shifts in embodiment, in presence, and in that sense of connection. Here are some of the qualitative results that emerged from this phase 1, giving you a sense for how it felt. We asked, what changes have you noticed in yourself and in your relationships? And people highlighted to us how they felt a greater sense of community, a sense of a shared journey with other farmers. There was a sense of improved emotion regulation. One person said, I take moments now to breathe and to look at the sky. And it was really these micro moments that enabled a shift. Lots of micro moments, when we've got these little moments, they add up to something bigger. There was a sense of enhanced embodiment, connecting to oneself, movements, small movement practices really helped people to notice more, their own experience, their experience of themselves and of others. And people also started using practices at work and beginning to receive positive feedback. One person said, "I've realized how to respond with care and without rushing." And it's not that this person wasn't caring before, but it was more that there was the sense of how to bring a greater groundedness into work and into the working relationships. So to not forget that when you enter into daily work. The sense of rhythm helped to encourage a deepening of practice, and overarchingly there was a sense of empowerment and confidence and purpose that people spoke of. And at this point, I'm going to hand over to Dan to flesh out those deeper learnings a little more. Dan, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm Dan McTiernan. I'm a coach, as Jessica said. I work mainly specifically around embodiment and presence, supporting people to make positive change in their life. But I also come from a background in land-based projects. I've been working for the last 2 decades in permaculture and have been involved in lots of businesses and food and land-based projects over those years, from community food growing initiatives to organic bakeries. I spent 5 years working as a olive and almond farmer. So I've been kind of dipping my toe in the world of food and farming and have a great love for it. And I have also had the experience of the toll that that can bring. I've had my own kind of health issues around burnout, and a period almost a decade ago now of fairly severe illness, in which after lots and lots of trying hard, trying to make the world a better place, doing the day-to-day work of this kind of intense lifestyle of food and farming, to my body saying, no, we're not doing that now, you need to stop. And so that has really helped me develop an understanding of how to take a different approach to my own well-being, and how that can help people avoid burning out, falling out with other people, or God forbid, dropping out of the work altogether. So this project is really here to support farmers to continue to do the work they love, hopefully at the same time avoiding ill health or any of the other issues that can affect such an intense lifestyle and job. So the project, as Jessica said, in 2 phases. The first one is this 10-week course. We had nearly 90 people engaged with it, and we tried to set it up as simply as possible so that it was very doable for farmers. So it was all audio based, so that they didn't have to be at a screen, so they could listen and do the practices while out on the land. We'd send one short audio lesson a week, just to introduce the theme of the week, one short guided practice. So that was a mixture of things like very simple breathing practices, or very short micro meditation practices, or some movement practices. So a kind of mixture of things that hopefully would appeal to different types of people. And then a reflective question every week. So this was an opportunity to bring a bit more awareness into what was going on in their lives, and also what was going on in relation to this course. What were they noticing? What were they gaining? What was working? What wasn't working? Could you move on to the next slide, Jessica? Yeah, and out of that, what really surfaced as 3 fairly universal themes was the relentlessness of the to-do list. Feelings of isolation or loneliness or separateness from others, And then this third sense that either a complete lack of recognition of their bodies, or treating their bodies like a kind of low-grade piece of machinery, like the least valuable piece of machinery on their farm. So the to-do list was a really big one. So there's both the feeling of being scattered that participants shared. So this idea of kind of having to spin all these plates everywhere all the time and never feeling like they know where they are in the middle of that. And also the kind of converse of that, feeling extreme pressure. So I'm sure lots of you can relate to this feeling of too much in too small a space, so kind of feeling full up to the brim. And what was really interesting in the process of working with these farmers was, firstly, awareness makes a big difference. So just taking the moment to notice how strong the drive was to complete this to-do list immediately makes a bit of space. It also surfaces kind of underlying beliefs and judgments about self, like I'm not good enough, I'm not working hard enough, I don't deserve a break because I haven't done all the tasks for that day. So it was an opportunity to actually see what was going on internally and to realize that themselves and their well-being wasn't on the to-do list. So what we've noticed amongst participants is that they've at least managed to put themselves on that list. It's not always easy to juggle the balance, and still there's all the same amount of tasks to do every day, but there's a recognition that their well-being needs to be on that list. The second, this piece around kind of loneliness and isolation, obviously, again, many of you are working in these kind of contexts. The more kind of technological farming becomes, people can spend days, weeks at a time hardly seeing anyone else working in, large machinery, etc., tractors, harvesters. And it was really gratifying to notice actually the fact that we did this as a cohort, so there were 90 people going through the same process at the same time, really made a difference to people. We also added to the audio course, we had a live forum space so people could message each other and ask questions, share experiences. And we had 3 live Zoom sessions so people could see each other face to face. And for example, several people noted that even when they were too busy to do their practice that week, they just didn't have time to spend a few minutes doing their practice. Just receiving the email and knowing that other people were engaged in this at the same time and seeing notifications of other people sharing messages on the forum made a difference. It was its own medicine already. And actually, someone pointed out that if they realized they were in a community that actually understood what was going on, shared many of the same concerns, were engaging in the effort to actually try and improve the situation, and that cared about each other. So that was lovely to experience. And then this last piece that we don't even recognize the body as like either we don't have body awareness, or we think of the body as just this kind of mechanical object. So recently in one of our sessions, a dairy farmer noted that he was sat with a group of other dairy farmers, and it suddenly occurred to him that between them they'd spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on equipment, on feed, on medicine for livestock, on infrastructure, and nothing on themselves. And he recognized in that moment that, wow, I just treat my body like the least valuable piece of equipment on the farm. So when when it runs out of fuel, put a bit of fuel in, something breaks, we'll kind of patch it up as quickly as possible, get it going. And suddenly it dawned on him that, the very obvious realization in a way that, without a farmer, there isn't a farm. So that shift from being the least valuable resource on the farm to maybe even being the most valuable resource on the farm, and that we need to take care of our body, has been a real interesting journey. So Rather than me talking any more about this, I'd like to introduce one of our farmers. So if you could move on to the next slide. So Joe has been with us for both phases. And so we've been working together for, what is it? I don't know, 7, 8 months now, something like that. He's a pioneer in a novel crop for Britain. He's a tea farmer, and he's here today to share a little bit of his experience. So, Joe, I'd like to welcome you to just share a little bit about what your motivations were to join, what was going on for you that felt like it was important to do a project like this, and what you've got from it so far. That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Dan. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know whether you can hear me, but hopefully you all can. Great. So my reasons for joining, well, sort of a number really. I could see within me that I needed to be restabilized. My sort of emotional state was one that was sort of yo-yoing around, but I suppose I first heard about the course from a flyer my wife picked up from a agricultural conference in January of this year, and I was informed about it by our social media networks. We sort of follow certain agroecological forums, and I suppose I was aware of the isolation. My previous life before farming was in public health, so I had an awareness that there was a lot of isolation, high depression and suicide levels amongst farmers, and I just felt, very grateful that there was something being specifically targeted for farmers in the UK. It was free, which is helpful, because going back to what Dan was saying, I was happy to spend money on equipment, but there's no way I'm going to spend any money on myself. I clearly have not really valued myself very much. So when somebody is offering a well-prepared package and a gift, it's rude not to accept it. And so I did that because I was actually trying to value myself a little bit. So I gave myself permission to attend, and I very quickly realized that whilst I'm working in nature, I felt very, very detached from it. I felt quite disembodied, and this course and the practical tools and the toolkits were matched perfectly for what I was looking for. Really, I didn't even know what I was looking for actually, but I discovered that it was a perfect fit for my needs. I felt quite disembodied at times, overwhelmed, exhausted. I was being reactive, not responsive, and I was deeply tired. But what I've received is a very safe space where my feelings have been acknowledged and valued, and I've given myself an opportunity to just step away for a short period of time from my day-to-day to just think about where I'm at, and it's been exceptionally valuable to me. And the course material have been incredibly appropriate. The fact that it is tied to the farming cycles, to the soil, that was really, really valuable and so relevant, and I think that makes huge difference. And what's particularly interesting about the fact that the materials were sort of embedded in the kind of the life of the farmer is that when I'm out on the land, I'm called to mind some of the materials that we've been working through in over the sort of 10-week period. And so that's really nice to be out on the land and then suddenly see something or do something that reminds you to care about yourself. So I found that really, really good. and I've shared many of the skills and the practices with friends and colleagues. And I'll just finish by sort of saying something about the results, even short term. I stepped away from one of our practice sessions and moved from my little farm office in an